Look, I gotta be honest. I have no faith in the Elder Scrolls 6 right now. Hey guys, Trip here. I've been a Bethesda fan for basically my entire life. They're pretty much my favorite dev studio by far. Now, I'm critical of Bethesda, you guys know this, but until recently, I never thought they could make a truly bad game. Buggy, broken, and a little shallow, sure, but a full-on flop? The idea never crossed my mind. But the past few years have slowly eroded that baseline trust I had in this company. So let's get right into it. Here's 3 things that make me worried about the Elder Scrolls 6. First off, Starfield. This game is one of the biggest red flags for me when it comes to Elder Scrolls 6. I'm not going to pretend to be unbiased here. I hated Starfield. It's a Bethesda game with awful world building and bad exploration. There's nothing for me here. But there's something in particular that really bothers me about Starfield, and really makes me question whether Bethesda can still deliver on the promise of an open world RPG. Specifically, I want to talk about the bafflingly repetitive and nonsensical points of interest in Starfield. By points of interest, I just mean dungeons, outposts, smaller settlements, unique landmarks, the destinations along your journey. This is the meat of a Bethesda game we're talking about, the core gameplay loop. You wander, you find something, you see that strip club in the distance, you can go there. Well, for whatever reason, Starfield has some of the most boring and repetitive POIs I've ever seen, and this destroys the entire game for me. It's a Bethesda game where exploring isn't fun, and that's just a non-starter for me. You can have the best building mechanics in the business, but why would I build a spaceship if there's nowhere interesting to go? I've been trying to figure out why the exploration feels this bad, because it's making me pretty nervous for Elder Scrolls 6. Some say that Starfield has far fewer POIs than previous games, but there seems to be a lot of dispute around this. Others say it's down to the way the game's Radiant quests send you to the same few places over and over again, which seems to me like very bad design. But regardless of the reason, the end result is a game that utterly fails to deliver the basics of a Bethesda experience. And if Bethesda doesn't even see a fundamental problem with Starfield, as we'll talk about later, then how can I have any faith in their next game? What really bothers me is that Bethesda put no thought into the context of these POIs. I thought this game was about exploring the fringes of space, going where no man has gone before, finding weird aliens and unearthing signs of advanced civilizations. So why do I always run into the exact same research facility I've seen a dozen times before, with the exact same backstory, the exact same notes lying around, the exact same pirates who are inexplicably there, and the exact same corpses in the exact same places? I swear, the design of this game just feels so conflicted and confused. I know I sound like a broken record, but I can't emphasize this enough. This is supposed to be a game about exploring the fringes of space. And yet the actual destinations on your journey feel so boring and uninspired, and certainly don't feel like I'm in a place that's unexplored. I checked the wiki to make sure I wasn't missing any groundbreaking standout locations that I just didn't see in my playthrough, but not really. By the way, usually when I go to a Bethesda game wiki, I get excited to go play the game, yet scrolling through this locations category on the Starfield wiki makes me want to take a nap. A good deal of these locations are nondescript caves, abandoned mines, abandoned factories, abandoned labs, pirate outposts, the kind of stuff you could slot into a Fallout game without changing much. I'm sorry, but could we not imagine some better locations for our space game? Why was this the extent of Bethesda's creativity? I want to see abandoned alien cities, remnants of ancient technology so advanced it seems like magic. I want to witness things in the depths of space that challenge my understanding of reality. Meanwhile, Starfield's idea of interacting with mysterious space anomalies mostly comes down to flying through the same fucking rings over and over again to get my stupid starborn powers. There's no room for immersion or curiosity in a game like this, and at that point, what's the point of exploring? What's the point of a massive open world game if every other destination is generic at best and identical at worst? And with such flimsy world building, it's not like I can get invested in these locations in the first place. The game invalidates itself. This whole thing speaks to Bethesda's total degeneration over the past decade at least. Did they even play this game? Do they understand why we play their games? Are they playing these games for the same reasons we do? Because I genuinely don't understand how they thought the exploration was acceptable in this game. And if they did, if they honestly thought this was good enough, how can we expect these people to make a sequel to Skyrim? In a world where open world games have advanced so far since 2011. Because make no mistake, Bethesda has shown a total lack of understanding for why people are souring on their most recent releases. And that leads me to my next point. Bethesda's total inability to take in feedback. Bethesda is a notoriously insular company, and until recently it's been hard to get a gauge on their company culture, development style, and their relationship to feedback. But lately, Bethesda has been coming out of their shell a bit, and I'm not liking what I'm seeing. Because in my opinion, Bethesda is acting delusional when it comes to the quality of their recent games and their reputation as a studio. They seem completely unable to process feedback and carry on with this Pollyannish navel-gazing that traps them in a bubble of their own making. The most obvious example is the bizarre and frankly embarrassing response to negative Starfield reviews. We all heard about this, right? Reviewers on Steam bring up valid reasons why the game doesn't resonate with them, and Bethesda reps respond by saying you're wrong. Think the game is dull? Clearly you just haven't played it enough. Think the loading screens make the game feel like a disconnected mess? Just consider how much epic content we packed into the game, and be happy the loading times are so short. Tired of boring, repetitive planets in our video game? Think the content is bad, lazy, and uninspired? Well, the astronauts certainly weren't bored when they went to the real-life moon, so what's your excuse? Are you fucking kidding me? Do I even need to explain why these answers are moronic? Probably not, because you're smarter than Bethesda thinks you are. These responses make Bethesda look desperate, out of touch, and incapable of showing empathy for their own player base. And then we come to the man himself, Todd Howard. He recently did some interviews that only support my fears about the direction he's taking the Elder Scrolls. In an IGN interview, Todd was asked about the concept of friction, choices, and consequences in open-world RPGs, and his answer did not fill me with confidence. Specifically, the interviewer told him that he prefers Bethesda's older games, where there was a bit more friction for the player to work through. First off, what do we mean by friction? Well, it basically refers to challenges and limitations placed upon the player that make the gameplay and story choices more meaningful. It's friction that makes the hero's journey feel worth it, because you start off weak, vulnerable, and distrusted, only to become a famous demigod by the end of the game. It's what happens when you join a guild and become enemies with their rivals. It's running into an unleveled dungeon and getting your ass kicked, only to come back later and kick ass with better gear and spells, and getting rewarded with meaningful loot at the end of it all. Friction is the feeling that your choices matter because they have consequences, and because you can't do everything in a single playthrough, making every run unique. In short, friction is the stuff that makes an RPG feel immersive, meaningful, and rewarding. And it's something modern Bethesda games sorely lack. We'll get back to the interview, but let me give you a good example. Remember that quest in Why is my voice cracking today? Remember that quest in Skyrim where you can side with the Forsworn, free their leader and his lieutenants from jail, and trash the city on your way out? The game basically ignores this decision giving the players zero consequences for turning traitor against a major city. Not only that, but most Forsworn don't even acknowledge the player's actions and continue fighting you like you're their enemy. It's as if the game just gives up trying to reflect your choices for fear that you might regret them. Here's what I'm getting at. In the pursuit of eliminating any friction from the experience, the game ignores a massive player choice. This is a cardinal sin of any RPG in my opinion, and one of my main problems with Skyrim. Imagine getting exiled from Markarth for life, but becoming permanent allies with the Forsworn, who provide their own merchants, taverns, and even a few quests. One door closes due to your actions, but another opens. This is what positive friction looks like. This is a fundamental way you could improve the series and make the next game feel like a true sequel to Skyrim. But Todd wants nothing to do with it. In the interview, he immediately dismisses the concept of friction and treats it as something to be avoided. He doesn't see how friction can positively affect player choices. If anything, he sees it as a detriment. He seems to view anything that gets in the way of the player doing what they want as bad game design, not realizing that challenge and limitations are what give player choice meaning. To be fair, it's unclear if Todd understood what the interviewer meant, and perhaps he could have phrased it better, though honestly, I feel like friction is a pretty common industry term. Anyway, my real concern is how quickly Todd seems to dismiss feedback like this and quickly shifts into another topic. He just keeps carrying on with this self-assured notion that the company is on the right track. Like the Bethesda reps on Steam, he doesn't show curiosity or an attempt to understand why some players find his modern games too shallow. A part of me wonders if he's even aware of this sentiment, because he honestly comes across like he's living in an alternate reality. One where open-world game design hasn't advanced since 2011. One where consequence and friction are dirty words. One where Bethesda is still the golden child of the industry who can do no wrong. Put bluntly, it feels like he's in a bubble, surrounded by yes-men and sycophantic fans. And this leaves me with a crucial question. How can Bethesda improve if they don't think there's a problem? I've said numerous times that Todd confuses streamlining for downsizing, and now it seems he's confusing friction with bad game design. This has all been clearly demonstrated in Bethesda's modern games as well. It's been clear to me since Oblivion that Bethesda has been making their games more shallow over time, and as long as Bethesda doesn't see a problem with that, I don't see this trend changing with The Elder Scrolls 6. But really, if you want an idea of what Elder Scrolls 6 will probably be like, all you have to do is look at Bethesda's latest releases. Which brings me to the last thing that makes me worried about The Elder Scrolls 6. And that's Bethesda's most recent work. I don't even know where to start with this. We could talk about Oblivion Remastered getting worse with every patch. We could narrow in on Fallout 4's disastrous next-gen update, which is still broken for many players. We could even drill down on how poorly written, underdeveloped, and underwhelming Terran Armada was. But in each case, the story remains the same. Bethesda's quality control is getting worse over time. What makes us think Elder Scrolls 6 will be any different? Because it's a massive, highly anticipated flagship product? So is Starfield. Will Bethesda just assume the game is good enough because of our past acceptance of their mediocrity? This is one of my greatest fears for the game, that Bethesda will take our past acceptance of their poor performance as an invitation to feed us slop. That the yes-men at the company and the most sycophantic fans in the community have lowered Bethesda's bar of quality. I want to be wrong. I want Elder Scrolls 6 to be a masterpiece. My dream game is a game that combines the best of both worlds between Morrowind and Oblivion, thrust into the modern era with better graphics, better combat, and more reactivity. Bethesda games are my favorite kinds of games to play. No one wants a good Elder Scrolls 6 more than I do. But as long as Bethesda continues down this path, as long as they keep watering down their games, ignoring feedback, and releasing garbage for us to consume, I have no reason to have any faith in the Elder Scrolls 6. But what do you guys think? What do you think Elder Scrolls 6 will actually be like? I want to hear both your realistic expectations and your wildest dreams. Oh yeah, and hit that like button if you liked the video, and let me know what you want me to talk about next. Personally, I'm not getting my hopes up for the game, but hey, that's just my decision.